The stars had always been quiet. For 300 years, humanity spread across 12 star systems. They built colonies on distant worlds. They made homes in places their ancestors could only dream about. And in all that time, they found nothing but empty planets and silent space. Dr. Beak-Jesu changed everything. She sat alone in her small lab on Outpost Sigma 9, a mining colony near the edge of human space. The screens around her showed the same data she had been studying for weeks. Strange signals. Patterns that could not be natural. Something was out there, and it was not human. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. But the numbers did not lie. 3 days later, the sky above Sigma 9 turned dark with ships. Captain Park Do-hyun was on patrol when his sensors went crazy. His ship, the Unyielding Dawn, was small and old. It was meant for watching borders, not fighting wars. But what he saw on his screen made his blood run cold. 400 ships. Maybe more. They came from beyond the charts, from space no human had ever explored. They were huge and strange, their designs unlike anything humanity had ever built. "All hands to stations," Park said. His voice was calm, but his heart was not. "Lieutenant Kim, what are we looking at?" Kim Yuna worked fast at her console. She was young but smart, the best tactical officer Park had ever served with. Her fingers flew across the controls as she tried to make sense of the impossible. "Unknown vessels, Captain. Hundreds of them. They are not responding to any known communication methods." Then the message came. It was broadcast on every channel, in broken human languages that sounded wrong and twisted. The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. Submit. Relocate to designated zones. Resistance will result in extinction. Park stared at the screen. Behind the alien fleet, he could see Outpost Sigma 9. 47,000 people lived there. Miners, scientists, families. Children. "Captain," Yuna said, her voice shaking. "They are charging weapons." Park opened his mouth to give an order. But before he could speak, the firing began. The alien ships did not hesitate. They did not wait for a response. They simply attacked. Beams of light cut through the station like knives through paper. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space. Silent and terrible. Outpost Sigma 9 died in 11 minutes. Park watched it all. He could do nothing to stop it. His ship was too small, too weak. If he attacked, he would die in seconds and change nothing. So he watched, and he recorded everything. When it was over, when the station was nothing but burning metal and frozen bodies, Park made a decision. "Open a channel," he said. "Broadcast to Earth. Broadcast to every colony. Every ship. Everyone. What do we send, Captain?" Yuna asked. Park looked at the destruction on his screen. 47,000 people. Gone. Just like that. "Everything," he said. "Send them everything. Let humanity see what these creatures have done." The message went out across human space. People on Earth saw the massacre. Colonists on distant worlds watched their screens in horror. The aliens had come, and they had shown no mercy. But Park was not finished. "Add this to the end of the transmission," he said. His voice was hard now, cold like the void outside. "They think we will run. Show them what humanity does when cornered." The Unyielding Dawn turned and fled into the darkness. There was nothing else Park could do. Not yet. On Earth, the United Human Coalition called an emergency meeting. Leaders from all 12 colonies gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces pale and afraid. The footage from Sigma 9 played on every screen. Admiral Choi Sung-gi stood at the center of the room. She was 73 years old, the oldest serving officer in the human fleet. Her hair was white, her face lined with age. But her eyes were sharp and bright. "They call themselves the Dominion of Keth," she said. "A coalition of 6 alien species. They have conquered over 200 worlds. Then we must negotiate, someone said. We cannot fight something like that. Negotiate? Choi's voice cut through the room like a blade. Did they negotiate with Sigma 9? Did they give those 47,000 people a chance to surrender? Silence fell over the chamber. They have conquered species that surrendered, Choi continued. They have broken civilizations that tried to run. But they have never faced a species that fought back. They have never faced humanity. She looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. We do not know if we can win this war. But we know what happens if we surrender. We know what happens if we run. So we will not surrender. We will not run. We will fight. Far away, in the command ship of the Dominion fleet, the alien commanders reviewed their victory. It had been easy, just like all the others. Soon, the humans would come begging for peace. They always did, but as hours passed, something strange happened. The humans did not send diplomats. They did not ask for terms. Instead, they went quiet, and in that silence, across 12 star systems, humanity began to prepare for war. The real war had not started yet, but it was coming, and the Dominion had no idea what they had awakened. The Dominion expected fear. They expected panic. They expected humans to scatter like every other species before them. What they got instead was something they had never seen. Humanity got angry. On Earth, factories that made farming equipment began making weapons. On Mars, shipyards that built cargo haulers started building warships. On every colony, in every system, the message was the same. No more waiting. No more peace. The enemy had drawn first blood, and humanity would answer. Engineer Han Minseo stood in the massive construction bay of the Titan shipyards. Around her, thousands of workers moved like ants, building something that had never existed before. Human ships had always been made for exploration and trade. They were elegant and efficient. But the thing taking shape before her was different. It was ugly. It was brutal. It was made for one purpose only. Project Thunderbolt, she said to the admiral standing beside her. The first true human warship. Admiral Choi Sungji studied the vessel. It was covered in thick armor. Its weapons bristled from every surface. It looked like a fist made of metal. How long until it is ready? Choi asked. 6 months. Maybe less if we push. Push, Choi said simply. Push harder than you have ever pushed before. Across human space, the same scene repeated. Mining ships were stripped and rebuilt as carriers. Cargo haulers received railguns and missile pods. Even passenger vessels were converted into troop transports. The Dominion watched all of this with confusion. Fleet Marshal Vaughn studied the reports on his display. He was old for his species, with scaled skin that had turned gray with age. In his long career, he had conquered 57 worlds. He had seen many different species react to Dominion might, but he had never seen anything like this. They are not evacuating their outer colonies, he said to his officers. They are reinforcing them, sending more people to the frontier. Perhaps they do not understand the threat, one officer suggested. No, Bond said slowly. They understand perfectly. They are preparing to fight. Then they are fools. No species has ever defeated the Dominion in battle. Lon said nothing, but something in his old heart felt uneasy. On Earth, recruitment centers could not handle the flood of volunteers. People lined up for hours, waiting for a chance to join the fight. Young and old, rich and poor, they all came with the same words on their lips. For Sigma 9, Sergeant Major Kang Jie stood before her latest group of recruits. They were farmers and teachers and miners. Most had never held a weapon in their lives. In 6 weeks, she had to turn them into soldiers. The enemy is stronger than us, she said, pacing before them. They have better ships, They have more experience. They have conquered 200 worlds. She stopped and looked at them with hard eyes. But they have never fought humans. They do not know what we can do when our families are threatened. They do not know how far we will go to protect our homes. By the time they learn, it will be too late. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Lee Soo-jin had made a discovery that would change everything. A damaged Dominion scout ship had crashed on a small moon near human territory. The crew was dead, but the computers still worked. For weeks, Lee and her team worked to break the alien codes. What they found amazed them. The Dominion has never fought a long war, she reported to Admiral Choi. Every conquest has been quick. Species see their power and surrender within days. They have no experience with extended conflict. Choi leaned forward. They have never faced resistance? Nothing meaningful. Their entire strategy depends on fear, on shock and overwhelming force. They do not know what to do when an enemy refuses to break. A slow smile spread across the old admiral's face. Then we must teach them. 1 month after the massacre at Sigma 9, the Dominion sent an envoy to Earth. They expected the humans to be ready to surrender, or at least to negotiate favorable terms. The envoy spoke with confidence. The Dominion offers mercy, the alien said through a translation device. Accept our rule, and you will be allowed to live. Continue to resist, and you will be destroyed like so many before you. Admiral Choi stood before the envoy. Behind her, screens showed footage of the Sigma 9 massacre. Burning stations, floating bodies, children's toys drifting in the void. You killed 47,000 of our people, Choi said. Without warning, without mercy. And now you speak of peace? It was necessary, the envoy replied. A demonstration of power. All species receive such demonstrations. Most learn quickly. Choi nodded slowly. Then she did something that confused the envoy completely. She smiled. Go back to your masters, she said. Tell them that humanity has received their message. Tell them we understand perfectly. And tell them this. She leaned close to the envoy, her old eyes burning with cold fire. We are coming for you. The envoy left. The message was delivered to Dominion High Command. For the first time in 1,000 years of conquest, the Dominion faced an enemy who was not afraid. Fleet Marshal Vaughn read the human response and felt the unease in his heart grow stronger. They should be begging for mercy, his officers said. They should be desperate. Yes, Vaughn agreed quietly. They should be, but they were not. And deep in the cold space between stars, human ships gathered like storm clouds. The thunder was coming. Humanity had spent 300 years exploring the stars in peace. Now they would show the galaxy what they could do in war. The Dominion attacked with everything they had. 400 warships swept into human space like a dark wave. They expected to crush the humans in weeks. They expected easy victory, like all the others before. They were wrong. The Battle of New Bizen began on a cold morning in space. The colony was a mining world, home to 200,000 people. Most were workers and their families, ordinary humans living ordinary lives. The Dominion fleet arrived at dawn. All ships, defensive positions. Commander Yoon Tae-hee ordered from the orbital platform. She was young for a commander, only 32. But today, age did not matter. Only courage did. The human defense was small. 2 military cruisers. A dozen converted mining ships. 3 orbital platforms that were never designed for war. Against 400 enemy vessels. It was almost nothing, but they fought anyway. The first wave of Dominion ships approached with confidence. They had seen the human defenses. They knew they outnumbered their enemy by 20 to 1. Victory was certain. Then the humans opened fire. Railguns hurled metal at impossible speeds. Missiles streamed through space in deadly swarms. Mining lasers that were meant to cut asteroids now cut through alien armor. The Dominion's front ships exploded in balls of flame. The aliens paused. This was not supposed to happen. "Push forward," their commander ordered. "They cannot stop us." They pushed. But every kilometer cost them ships. Every hour brought new losses. The humans refused to retreat. When one platform was destroyed, the survivors transferred to another. When a ship ran out of missiles, its crew rammed the enemy directly. The battle lasted 11 days. 11 days of constant fighting. 11 days of fire and death and courage beyond measure. In the end, the Dominion took New Bizen, but it cost them 87 ships. And by the time they broke through, every civilian had been evacuated to safety. Commander Yoon Tae-hee died on the final day, her platform exploding around her. Her last words were broadcast across human space. "They can break our ships. They can burn our stations. But they will never break our spirit." Captain Park Do-yoon heard those words from the bridge of his ship. His hands tightened on the armrests of his command chair. He had been watching, waiting, building his strength. Now it was time to strike back. "Set course for the Dominion command station," he ordered. "All power to engines." His crew looked at him with concern. The command station was heavily defended. Getting close would be almost impossible. Getting out alive would be completely impossible. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim Yuna said carefully, "that is a suicide mission." "No," Park replied. "It is a necessary mission." "There is a difference." The unyielding dawn shot through space like a bullet. Dominion ships tried to intercept, but Park had learned their patterns. He dodged and weaved through their formations, always moving closer to his target. The command station loomed ahead. It was massive, a floating fortress covered in weapons and armor. Park's ship fired everything it had. Missiles struck the station's shields. Railguns hammered its hull. But it was not enough. "Weapons depleted, Captain," an officer reported. Park nodded. He had expected this. He had planned for it. "All hands to escape pods," he ordered. "We are going to ram." No one argued. No one hesitated. They climbed into the pods, trusting their captain completely. Park stayed at the helm, guiding his ship toward the station's core. At the last moment, he ejected. The unyielding dawn struck the command station at full speed. The explosion was visible from 100 kilometers away. When the light faded, the station was gone. The Dominion's main coordination hub in human space had been destroyed. Park floated in his escape pod, watching the debris drift past. He had survived somehow. He did not know if that was lucky or not. On the ground, the war was even more brutal. Sergeant Major Kang Jie led the defense of Kepler-7, a rocky world at the edge of human territory. The Dominion landed 50,000 soldiers. GA had 5,000 to stop them. "We cannot win," one of her officers said. "We should retreat." "Retreat where?" GA asked. "This is our home. If we lose here, our families lose everything. So we do not retreat. We dig in and we make them pay for every meter." They fought with guns until the ammunition ran out. Then they fought with knives and clubs and fists. Miners used their drilling equipment as weapons. Factory workers built traps from industrial machinery. Even the children helped, carrying supplies and messages through underground tunnels. The Dominion had expected a quick victory. Instead, they spent 3 months fighting for a single continent. They lost 3 soldiers for every human they killed. And when it was over, when they finally claimed the burned and broken land, the humans simply moved to the next continent and started fighting again. Fleet Marshal Vaughn received the reports with growing dread. Nothing was going as planned. The humans did not fight like conquered species. They fought like something he had no name for. "They do not retreat when surrounded," he told the Dominion Council. They attack. When they run out of weapons, they use their bare hands. When they die, their companions fight harder, not weaker. We have never encountered this. Then we must increase our forces, a council member said. We have already sent our full invasion fleet, Vaughn replied. Any more ships will leave our other territories undefended. Then what do you suggest? Vaughn was silent for a long moment. I suggest, he said slowly, that we may have made a terrible mistake. Far away, Admiral Choi Sung-gi addressed humanity through a broadcast that reached every ship. Every colony, every refugee camp. They came expecting sheep, she said. They found wolves. Now we show them what wolves do when the pack is threatened. The humans cheered. In their hearts, they knew the truth. The Dominion was strong, but humanity was stronger. And this was only the beginning. 6 months had passed since the massacre at Sigma 9. The Dominion's quick victory had become a nightmare. And now, humanity was ready to strike back. Engineer Han Min-seo stood in the launch bay of Titan shipyards, tears in her eyes. Before her floated the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built. The Hammer of Sigma, a dreadnought-class warship, named for the 47,000 who died on that terrible day. She is beautiful, Admiral Choi said, standing beside her. She is death, Min-seo replied. Death for those who killed our people. The Hammer of Sigma was massive. It was 3 kilometers long, covered in armor that could stop any weapon the Dominion had. Its guns could shatter moons. Its missiles could hunt targets across entire star systems. It was not elegant. It was not graceful. It was a machine built for one purpose, revenge. Across human space. 11 more dreadnoughts prepared for launch. The factories had worked day and night. Workers had given everything they had. Now the fruits of their labor were ready. Captain Park Do-hyun watched the fleet gather from the bridge of his new ship. After the destruction of the unyielding Dawn, he had been given command of the 7th Assault Fleet. It was smaller than the main fleet, but faster and more dangerous. Sir, Kim Yuna said. She was a commander now, his second in command. The fleet is ready. Park nodded. Then let us begin Operation Burning Path. The operation was simple in concept but deadly in execution. Human raiders would strike the Dominion's supply lines. Without supplies, the enemy fleet would starve. Without fuel, their ships would freeze. Without ammunition, their guns would go silent. The first attack hit 17 supply depots in a single day. Park's fleet moved like ghosts. They struck from asteroids and moons, appearing without warning and vanishing before the enemy could respond. They destroyed fuel stations and ammunition stores. They captured cargo ships filled with food and medicine. The Dominion had never faced guerrilla warfare in space. They did not know how to fight an enemy they could not see. Every time they sent ships to protect one depot, the humans attacked another. Every time they built a new supply route, the humans found it and cut it. Commander Kim Yuna became famous for her tactics. She used decoys and false signals to confuse the enemy. She led them into traps and ambushes. She turned the Dominion's own weapons against them by capturing ships and using them in raids. She fights like a demon, Dominion officers whispered to each other. There is no honor in her warfare. But humanity was not fighting for honor. They were fighting for survival. On the ground, Sergeant Major Kan Ji-ye had written a manual called Fighting the Giants. It taught soldiers how to defeat a stronger enemy through cleverness and courage. Every human soldier carried a copy. Every one of them had memorized its lessons. The enemy is bigger than us, the manual began. They have better armor. They have better weapons. They have more soldiers. But they have one weakness. They expect us to die easily. Show them how wrong they are. The methods were brutal but effective. tunnels that collapsed on enemy troops, weapons hidden in ordinary objects, attacks at night when the aliens could not see. The Dominion lost more soldiers on the ground than they had lost in 1,000 years of conquest. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening within the Dominion itself. Two of the 6 species that made up the Dominion had begun to doubt. The war was supposed to be quick and easy. Instead, it had lasted months and cost thousands of lives. Conquered species watched with growing hope. If humanity could resist, perhaps they could. Secret messages began to flow between the 2 doubting species and human intelligence officers. "We do not wish to continue this war," the messages said. "We were forced to join the Dominion. Help us, and we will help you." Lee Sujin brought this news to Admiral Choi with barely contained excitement. "They are ready to betray the Dominion," she said. 2 species out of 6. If we can convince them to switch sides, the enemy alliance will collapse. Choi considered this carefully. What do they want in return? Protection, freedom, a chance to live without Dominion rule. Then we will give it to them, Choi decided. But first, we must prove that we can win. Only then will they trust us enough to act. The proof came at the Battle of the Forge. The Forge was a Dominion shipyard, the place where half their fleet was built and repaired. It was defended by 200 warships and countless weapons platforms. It should have been impossible to attack. Park Do-yoon attacked it. Anyway, his fleet came out of hiding like wolves emerging from the forest. The Hammer of Sigma led the charge, its massive guns blazing. Behind it came the 7th Assault Fleet and 5 other battle groups. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled. The battle lasted 2 days. Ships burned and exploded on both sides. The void of space filled with debris and bodies. But in the end, the Forge fell. The Dominion's ability to build new ships was cut in half. Fleet Marshal Vaughn received the news in silence. Around him, his officers waited for orders. But for the first time in his long career, Vaughn had none to give. "Recommend strategic withdrawal from human space," he finally said. "The cost is too high. These creatures are not like others. They are something new, something dangerous." The Dominion Council received his recommendation with shock. In 1,000 years, they had never retreated. But the numbers did not lie. The war was destroying them. Humanity had not just survived. They had turned the tide, and now the real counterattack was about to begin. The final battle took place where everything had begun. The Vega Corridor, the same stretch of space where the Dominion had first appeared. The same coordinates where 47,000 humans had died on Outpost Isga 9. Humanity had chosen this place on purpose. Admiral Choi Sung-gi stood on the bridge of the Hammer of Sigma. Around her, officers worked at their stations with quiet focus. Through the viewports, she could see the human fleet stretching across the stars. 300 warships. Every vessel humanity could spare. On the other side of the corridor, the Dominion waited. Their remaining fleet was larger, nearly 400 ships. But they were tired and afraid. 6 months of war had broken their confidence. They had come expecting easy prey. They had found something else entirely. "Admiral," Kim Yuna reported from her station, "the enemy fleet is moving into attack formation." Choi nodded. "All ships, prepare for engagement. Today we end this." The 2 fleets moved toward each other like giant fists about to collide. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Captain Park Do-hyun commanded the right flank from his new flagship, the Dawn of Vengeance. He had named it after his first ship, the one he had sacrificed to destroy the Dominion command station. That ship had been small and old. This one was a predator. "All ships," he said calmly, "follow my lead." We punched through their left side and circle around. Standard Wolfpack tactics. His fleet responded as one. They had trained together for months. They knew each other like family. When Park moved, they moved with him. The battle began with a storm of fire. Railguns roared. Missiles streaked through the void. Energy beams cut across the darkness like burning swords. Ships exploded on both sides, their crews dying in silence and flame. The noise of war existed only inside the vessels, in the screaming of alarms and the shouting of orders. The hammer of Sigma led the human center. Its guns pounded the enemy line with terrible force. Dominion ships shattered under the assault. Their shields could not stop the human weapons. Their armor could not protect them, but the Dominion fought back with desperate strength. They knew this was their last chance. If they lost here, everything they had built would crumble. A Dominion warship broke through the human line and headed straight for the hammer of Sigma. Its weapons blazed, striking the Dreadnought's bridge. Explosions rocked the massive ship. Admiral Choi was thrown from her chair. Pain shot through her side. Blood ran down her face. Officers rushed to help her, but she pushed them away. "I am fine," she said through gritted teeth. "Continue the attack." "Admiral, you are wounded. You should go to medical." "I will go to medical when this battle is over," Choi replied. "Until then, I stay here. We finish what we started." She stood again, holding her injured side, and watched the battle unfold. Park Do-Hyun's flanking maneuver had worked perfectly. His fleet had circled behind the Dominion line and was now attacking from the rear. The enemy was trapped between two forces, unable to escape or regroup. Commander Kim Yuna directed the attack with cold precision. She had learned much in the past months. She had learned how to fight. She had learned how to win. And she had learned that mercy was a luxury they could not afford. "Concentrate fire on their command ships," she ordered. "Cut off the head, and the body will die." One by one, the Dominion command vessels fell. Without coordination, the enemy fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships tried to flee and collided with each other. Weapons fired wildly, hitting friend and foe alike. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Dominion fleet was broken. Less than 50 ships escaped. The rest were debris drifting in the void. Humanity had won. The Dominion Council sent a message the next day. They offered complete withdrawal from human space. They asked for nothing in return except peace. Commander Kim Yuna delivered humanity's response. She stood before the communication screen with her uniform stained and her eyes tired. But her voice was strong. "Withdrawal is not enough," she said. "You will release every species you have conquered. You will dismantle your war fleets. And you will remember what happens when you threaten humanity." The Dominion Council argued among themselves for days, but they had no choice. 2 of their member species had already defected to the human side. Their military was shattered. Their will to fight was gone. They accepted every demand. Captain Park Do-Hyun led the fleet that escorted the Dominion ships out of human territory. As they passed the ruins of Outpost Sigma 9, he opened a broadcast on all channels. 47,000, he said. "We did not forget. We will never forget." The war was over. But something larger had begun. 5 years later, a monument stood in orbit above the rebuilt Sigma 9. It was made of black stone from the original station. 47,000 names were carved into its surface. Beneath them, a single inscription glowed in golden light. They expected us to fall back. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to be like every other species they had conquered. They were wrong. This is what humanity does. We remember, we endure, and we rise. Admiral Choi Seung-gi had retired after the war. She lived quietly now, writing her memoirs. Commander Kim Yuna had become the first human ambassador to the former Dominion species, building alliances instead of fighting battles. Captain Park Do-Hyun commanded the Frontier Guard, watching the stars for any new threats. Dr. Beek-Jesu, who had first detected the aliens so long ago, now led research teams that included scientists from a dozen species. They explored the galaxy together, seeking knowledge instead of conquest. And in the depths of space, other civilizations learned of humanity's victory. They heard the stories of the small species that had refused to surrender, the species that had turned the tide against an empire that had conquered 200 worlds. The message spread across the stars. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Humanity was not to be threatened. Humanity stood united against any darkness that dared to challenge them. The Dominion had expected humans to fall back. Instead, the real war had begun. A war that humanity had won. A war that had changed everything. And now, among the endless stars, humanity took its rightful place. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors of the weak, as defenders of the innocent, as proof that courage and unity could defeat any enemy. The universe would remember. Humanity was here, and they were not going anywhere.